Yeah, I mean, we really started with a few neighborhoods in Chicago, and we prided ourselves in being the best in Chicago. Then that really brought into Chicagoland, and now we are regional and even national.
Our brokers know, and this goes back to it's about the relationship, not the deal. As long as you can put the client first, always. That's the kind of people that we want on board. We always also, though, look at our own company that way. Our brokers are first always.
Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏. With me across the table, Mark Ainley. How we doing?
Oh man, that was an awesome intro. Like we changed circumstances, but you still nailed it.
A little sick too. I thought the voice would crack there.
I was hoping the voice would crack just for blooper's sake.
Hey, we are recording this 2 weeks after the Kiser event. Man, that was awesome. First off, the West Loop is just great. Love being down there.
Yes, they have such a cool office where we got to pull in like all their staff. They pull into the garage and they got parking spots. Like that was I don't know if all their staff does, but they let us use some of their employee parking. That was pretty cool kind of setup.
Yeah, no. So thank you to the hospitality. Thank you for inviting us to your big event. It's so cool to see. Just I know you guys have been around for 20 years. Seen it with Jeff at Drexel for 20 years. Like 20 years is like a long time, and it's all these people at the top of the mountain where everyone wants to get to, but no one wants to put in 20 years, right? Everyone wants the cheap, easy fix. And it's like no, you keep grinding away deal after deal.
But the crazy thing is, it just comes so fast. Like it's funny how life, as I'm getting older here, so this is me on my soapbox, it's like it feels like so long, but it feels so quick. Like it's just an amazing kind of thing about life of just like the feeling of time, I guess. So, but yeah, 20 years, and they've done amazing things. I loved that this party had a keg. They literally had a keg.
Yeah, that was awesome. So for our listeners here, we got about 15 or 20 minutes with Lee and Stella. We didn't want to take them away from their party too long, so we kept it pretty brief. And then we had other just, random drop-ins. We said, hey, come say a couple words about Kiser, what it's like either being, a client of theirs, working at Kiser, et cetera. So we have a bunch of great interviews just collaborated into one. We didn't stop. We didn't want to kill the party, so people had to listen to us. So we were in our little corner recording as the party went on. So you'll hear some background noise. It'll sound like a party. Yeah, I listened to some of the editing. I'm just shouting in this thing because I didn't think anyone could hear me.
Yeah, but shout out to you though, because even though these are kind of just random people, you actually were able to ask some really good questions. I was listening to your questions. You asked some really good questions that brought out some real good value for our listeners. So it wasn't just like, let's all talk about Kiser and how wonderful they are, which they are.
Into a love fest.
You actually were able to really draw out some really good feedback for the listeners here today.
Well, I've been recording a podcast for 5 years, so I've gotten a little better at this.
A little practice, yeah.
So, all right, let's jump in. Housing provider tip.
All right, cool. So housing provider tip of the week. We're talking about being in business for 20 years, and that doesn't happen because you build great technology or great systems or great this or great that or have a good office location or have a good tagline. It's all those things together. But the biggest part of that is the relationship piece. And we'll talk in the interviews you're going to hear tonight. There are going to be a lot of talks about relationship and how one person makes the other person feel. I'm not trying to get all soft here, but you do business with people that you like. People do business with you because they like you. You leave them with a feeling. You live with a remarkable feeling. And to put this into more of a landlord or a housing provider side of things, this is how you should do with your tenants as well too. You could have a business professional relationship with your tenants, but you still want them to feel like you care about them and feel that you like them and want them to live in your home and feel comfortable with their life. So whether it be that relationship or with your vendors or your lenders, make sure people like you and make sure you're likable and make sure that you're able to reciprocate in those feelings as well too. And that's what it takes to get to 20 years.
All right, awesome. All right, so we're going to start with a few different interviews with random people. I don't know who we have first on there, so I'm just going to say a few random people, and I think we end with the interview with Lee and Stella. So without further ado, here's us talking at the Kiser event. All right, Aaron, had to hunt you down. You've been avoiding us all night.
Good to be back, gentlemen.
Just ignore it. All right, jump right in. All right, so
there's a line to talk to me. You gotta wait your turn.
All right. When did you start at Kiser? Let's talk about young Aaron's coming to this saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to be a mortgage broker. Or I'm going to be a broker over at Kiser.
The young Aaron started at Kiser Group probably 10 years ago. 10 years ago, maybe, which is unbelievably weird right? It feels like yesterday. Right? I mean, how long did you guys start this?
It's 5 years.
We're 5, yeah.
Oh, does it seem like 5 years ago?
No.
No. All right, so 10 years ago, what did you start on the south side? I don't know your origin. Let's dive in a little bit
So
here.
you want to go to the Genesis chapter 1?
Yeah, Genesis and Exodus. Then we got to cut it off, though. We got other
All
people.
right, we'll give you like the 30-second elevator, square one. So I was in finance. I was a trader, and I wanted to make the switch to real estate. I didn't know if I wanted to get into residential real estate or commercial, and I didn't know anything about Chicago. I didn't know anything about commercial real estate, right? Like my parents are both in medicine. My parents are both doctors, and I have no knowledge of real estate other than what I'm watching on, TV at the time. This is before YouTube and whatnot. So I thought I wanted to get into residential real estate. I got into residential real estate, and I think if you ask any company, App Properties, Compass, Sotheby's, I think I hung up my jersey the quickest, okay? My career in residential real estate could not have lasted more than 40 hours max, and it might even be under 30 hours. And so, at the time I said, residential real estate is the worst thing in the world. I absolutely hate it. And if you're in residential real estate, all the power to you. And a buddy of mine said, talk to a couple commercial real estate firms. Kiser Group was one of them. I applied at Kiser Group. I met Lee.
So real quick, 10 years ago, how big is Kiser Group? So like is Noah here already?
Noah's here at Kiser Group. Noah was here for 2 or 3 years, and there's probably 10 other guys. 10 other guys, 9 maybe, a couple of which were staff. There was our front office gal at the time, and someone else who did our marketing. But I met with Noah, and Noah had been working on the south side of Chicago for a couple years, or 3 years at the time. And the guy said to me, what do you know about the south side of Chicago? And my response was, well, I don't know anything about the north side of Chicago, the south side, east, west, you name it. But I guarantee you, if you put me here, I will learn it faster than anyone else, and I will do whatever you need me to do, and I will get it done the right way. And I started working under Noah Burke at the time. Noah was my senior, my mentor. He's the one who showed me the ropes. And about a year later, Noah was selling a ton of buildings in South Shore. I was selling a good amount of buildings farther west, Chatham, Auburn, Gresham. Year later, year and a half goes by. He's moving west, I'm moving east, and we said, hey, why don't we just try giving it a crack and running at this together? And 10 years later, we're selling 50 buildings a year, 60 buildings a year. Last year, we sold 78. And so it's been a good run.
That's awesome. So a lot of brokers, it's pretty common industry for brokers to either, especially commercial brokers, move around, start their own firm. To have this much time at one firm is pretty rare. Why have you made it such a tenure here at Kiser?
Complacency.
Dude, you could have said a better answer. Like, that was perfect.
That was Norm Macdonald deadpan.
That was
too.
perfect,
That was
dude.
good.
No, Kiser Group's an awesome place. It's a great environment. We have a great group of guys. We're all friends. It's fun coming to work every day. There's enough challenges that go on every single day outside of work. But the group of guys and girls that are here right now, it's awesome. It's fun. We all shoot the shit. And our friendships and our camaraderie extends way past just what it is on our 9 to 5 every day. So it's exciting and fun to be here.
That's awesome. All right, so we'll stick on the topic of fun. You've got to have seen some stuff walking thousands of South Side doors. Give us a horror story. Give us a funny story. Give us.
Tom, we all have a different definition of fun. Clearly, all right. You don't want to hear my idea of fun, all right?
What do you got
I'll get this
here?
podcast canceled before I finish my idea of fun, all right? You want fun, all right?
Let's hear it.
You want PG-13 fun, R-rated fun? You want X-rated? What do you want?
Probably not X. We'll give
Take
it a
R.
listen. We'll take R. Yeah.
X will get weird.
Look, call me naive, okay? I have been, and I don't know if I'm lucky, I don't know if I'm blessed, I don't know if I'm just stupid and I keep my head down too much. I have never seen anything good anything bad on the south side of Chicago. All the stuff you hear about, you read about, and again, you guys on the property management side, I'm sure you've seen a million times more, but you know, I'm in and out. I'm straight to business. I'm showing buildings. I'm walking through buildings, and you know, again, call me naive, call me ignorant to my surroundings, but I've never seen anything good or bad. Knock on wood to that, okay? And I have no problem having that be the momentum going forward.
What are you guys going to stay focused on the south side? What's the, like, you know, you guys keep growing, you keep selling more buildings. Is there, for the two of you, are you looking at geographically expanding, or is it just more of the same and just, hey, we got our niche here, we have
a good shtick going on the south side of Chicago. About 3 years ago, we expanded. 4 years ago, I take that back. 4 years ago, we expanded west. And I don't know if you guys know Jack Petrano, Noah Clark. They're absolutely crushing it on the west side. Little Village East, Garfield Park, West Garfield, Austin, you name it. Just like how Burke and I are what I like to call running the streets of the south side, they're taking the west side by storm. We have a couple other young, just awesome guys, John George and Joe Bianchi and Ben Africa, who are taking the south suburbs by storm as well. And so we are expanding. We are expanding very strategically and methodically. We don't just want to go wherever. All of the markets we're going into have some sort of synergy to the south side of Chicago, whether it's demographic, whether it's buyer type. There are a lot of similarities into the markets we're expanding into.
Yeah. For someone who hasn't bought on the south side, you have investors like, you know what, I'm going to go look at this 8-unit in South Shore or whatever it is.
Yeah, easy, done.
Yeah.
Why not?
Talk to them a little about, hey, expectations, what, you know, there's a lot of people saying, oh, don't go do that, don't go do that. You as the broker, you've seen people succeed. You've seen people make millions and millions of dollars there.
The south side is interesting because, and I mean, this really extends into any facet of real estate. There's a lot that can go right. There's a hell of a lot that can go wrong, right? It's an area where you can make a lot of money. It's an area where you can lose your shirt and more. And we've seen, you know, everything, every which way, up, down, left, right, you name it. I would say the most important thing about getting involved in real estate, again, whatever market it's in, is you gotta surround yourself with guys who know what they're doing. You gotta have a good team around you, whether it's a property manager, whether it's, you know, an insurance agent, whether it's a real estate broker. And if you wanna manage the building yourself, you gotta know all the hurdles and surprises that you don't wanna run into. You gotta have your team of guys, right? You gotta have a handyman, a mason, a carpenter. And so, as it relates to new guys who are just getting in, I always tell people, don't be afraid to overspend on something and buy something that seems expensive, because I would highly encourage you to buy something that I call easy versus a value add, a harder building for a first-time investor, right? Me as a broker, my goal is, you know, not to see the client succeed, but I also want to sell you not one, not two. I want to sell you a bunch of buildings, and then in 5-10 years, when you have a portfolio of 20, 30 buildings, I want you to come back to me and, you know, finish the job. That's not going to happen if you buy one building and it doesn't go well. So I always tell people, hey, look, this building's double the price of this, but you're going to have, you know, less than half of the surprises. So if you look at probability, the numbers work out, right? And so I'm always wary of people who, you know, want something cheap because it's cheap, and they're telling you they want to get their hands dirty, and they want to do this, they want to do that, with little to no experience.
Yeah, no, great point.
And I'm sure you can relate to that as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, if I would way rather see someone, if the price of a building on a per unit basis is $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a unit, I would way rather see a first time buyer spend, you know, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, $110 a unit, to know that they're getting a quality product with minimal surprises and really, you know, headaches. Because at the end of the day, it's not about maximizing the income. It's really about minimizing the expenses.
Yeah, real estate works. It's been proven to work for hundreds of
It
years.
can work. It can work.
It works as long as you don't get burned, right? So like minimize all those chances of getting burned. It will work.
Yeah, limit the mistakes, and yeah, for sure, love it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much.
Hold on,
That's all I got.
One more.
One
I thought you
more.
had something to say. What's the hottest South Side neighborhood in 2025?
Oh, the market's hot, baby. The market
All
is
of it?
hot.
Just all of it. What's hottest one? What give me a neighborhood?
You know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you have your Hyde Park nucleus and all of your tertiary neighborhoods in that. Your East Woodlands, your Jackson Parks, your Kenwoods. South Shore is absolutely en fuego. I think Auburn Gresham is a sleeper neighborhood. Auburn Gresham it's just west of the highway. It's not exciting. It's not sexy. There's no buzzwords. There's no real big developments going on there. But at the same time, as far as, you know, an investment goes, it's relatively easy, predictable, and safe. And again, while that's not, there's no attractive buzzwords to associate that with, from an investment perspective, I would way rather have a easy, safe, predictable deal than a deal that might, 10x but have a, 80% chance of going to zero.
Yeah.
Hold on, I saw an Auburn Gresham pro forma the other day that had close to Obama Library. So like, it is still, people still try. Those sellers still try.
Views of the lake?
Yep, views of the lake.
Stone's throw away from downtown?
Yep.
Throwing stones. People throw stones pretty far
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
People-
so-
Stones, they can throw them top.
You can throw rocks in Chicago, all right?
All right, awesome. Aaron, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen. As always.
Matt, thanks for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we are excited. Mark, Bald Guys Unite over here. You got to come join us.
I wish.
Come on.
All right, so, Matt, what's your relation with Kiser for our listeners out there?
Yeah, I'm a commercial mortgage broker, so I've been doing it for almost 30 years, and I kind of work with all of their agents to try to help them figure out how to source debt and how to put deals together so the financing works for the potential buyers.
Yep. So we have a lot of listeners who are, I'll call it smaller, right? They go and they buy it. And it's pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these, $10 million loan though, it's a lot. Capital stack, it's a lot different.
Yes, it does.
So talk to us just about some of those intricacies.
Well, I think I'm perfect for that kind of scenario in that a lot of my clients have started out small. You got to start somewhere, right? You got to start with the first deal. You don't want a one-off. You got to start somewhere. And even some of these people in the room, like Katie and such, we just started with our first transactions and starting to teach them and get them set up to continue to grow. But you're right. The debt and structures and the way you can transact and set up deals as you get larger become more complex, but also there's a lot more money on the table out there to come up with different ways to put deals together. And when you get to that size, that's kind of where my value comes in, even at the beginning, but also at the end, because there's so much stuff going on that trying to figure out what the best way to do it with the most options is complicated and also fun.
Can we dive in just a little there? Right? Can you share some maybe specific examples for someone who hasn't gone through that process?
Okay.
Understand this gets me a quarter point or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. Give us maybe with 2 or 3.
The first financial break is when you get above $1 million. So when you're trying to borrow above $1 million. And when you get above $1 million, after you've had experience, you can't just start at $1 million. Well, you can, but you need to have some experience, and then you start doing stuff that's over $1 million. You open up to your world for non-recourse debt, long-term finance stuff, Freddie, Fannie, CMBS. And then after that stage, when you get to about 10 million, you can get to HUD money, you can get to life company debt. There's a whole
why would that be
tier.
advantageous, going to a life company or HUD?
Usually when you get to that point, the first thing, but when you get above the million threshold, the first part is non-recourse, okay? If you've been around as long as I have, back when we had hair, curls, we had this big drop in 2006, 7, 8, 9, whatever you want to talk about, and we were all personal guaranteeing loans, okay? It didn't work out too well for me and for lots of others in our bucket. But when you're in this $1 million and up, or $10 million and up, you get to non-recourse debt, okay? Well, your wife is happy because you're not personally guaranteeing the debt. If you behave, you can theoretically hand the keys back. If something goes bad and you've done everything right and you've kept all the money in the drawer, you can walk away and not have them come chase all the other assets that you have. And that's kind of important. Now, there are carve-outs, and there are bad boy carve-outs. If you do some bad stuff, they'll still come knocking on your door. But in theory, that's the one. The second one is you get longer-term interest rates. Instead of your typical 5-year fixed, 3-year fixed, you get a 10-year deal, or you can get 12 or 15. You can get interest only for longer periods of time. It become an arm and adjustables. There's all kinds of, you can get 20-year fixed. You can make, it goes on and on. The optionality and the flexibility is enhanced. I think the more experience you get.
All right, cool. So I'm going to piggyback to the relationship with Kiser.
Yeah.
Why do you like working with them? I mean, obviously you like business, right? We all do.
I like business.
Yeah. I don't
know
money.
if I like working with Kiser. No, I do. I like working with guys who are out there. They tend to have deals that are always interesting and unique. And they tend to have buyers that sometimes are out of state or in state or have some different unique situations that might need high touch people like myself. And I'm not a bank, so I get to kind of see the whole scenario and craft it in such a way that we can figure out a way to get a deal done. But they're really great guys. They know the market really well. They know each kind of has their niche. You know, you've got these different guys that have these different areas of expertise, and they know each corridor and what's wrong with the buildings and the history of those properties. And it really helps make my job easier, kind of having that expertise on hand about what I'm walking into and what I'm about to expect. That's kind of it.
All right, so give us either a horror story or like the deal that took 5 years off your life. Give us that one. Like, my God.
Well,
you have a couple flashbacks in the shower
couple
just randomly.
flashbacks, I know, as I start to twitch when you start doing it as long as I have. Well, with most of the properties, I'll see if I can think of something particular. I mean, we did a really large deal here where we were buying 4 buildings actually, that were basically vacant. Okay? Each building had like 5 or 6 tenants in them, enough to like have it be occupied. And those are really difficult deals to do because there's no cash flow. Everything is based off of cash flow. Sure, your personal life gets looked at, but not in the same way as residential. But the building has to support the debt. And when you buy a building like this, and it's the size of it, this was several hundred units, it was really complicated to put together and to put together a financing package that would get it done. And the seller was relatively uncooperative, and like tenants didn't want to let us in. And so I got kicked off of a showing. Like a tenant literally kicked me out. I'm like one of the nicest guys, so trust me. And they kicked me out because they got freaked out. I don't know what was going on, medication or something. But it was a really big deal. It was for 𝗬𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 team. And it turned out to be a great transaction, but it was really kind of a fun one for me because you don't find a lot of north side buildings that are basically 100% empty, several hundred units. And so it was a cool feather in my cap, I guess, to try to figure that out, but also just to kind of see it through. And now it's finished and it's a really great product, and it's, community, and it's a great building. And it's got exercise rooms and a really good owner that's operating there and taking care of the neighborhood. So that was kind of fun.
It's cool in all of our lines of business to be able to drive by things. I mean, even decades later, you might not even own it anymore, but say like, I did that. Like, that's a great feeling.
Yeah, I was telling these guys the other day, like I got like the equivalent of a gold watch when I was starting out because I had financed the building 3 times, but it was in 3 years, maybe 4. Like one guy bought it, theoretically raised the rents, sold it to another guy for $1 million. That guy did some minor improvements, sold it for another $1 million. It was all based on forecasted rents that no one actually had raised the rents. But I financed the building 3 times, and my ex-partners got me like a 𝗬𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 watch for like doing it 3 times in 3.5 years.
So, all right, you got a funny story. Let's make fun of one of these brokers here, or anything on Lee.
Well, they're pretty easy to make fun of. I mean, Lee's in a band. Let's just start there, right? I mean,
we heard the origin. I now know what 6FM means.
That's 6FM, exactly. I mean, so I'm surprised he doesn't have a karaoke here, trying to make people up and try to prove that he can't really play on, in the right key. Let's see, what else? What else is a good, funny story? I'll have to see if we can think about something else. We had a deal a long time ago. This is when Lee first started, where at the closing, the seller decided to take all the washing and dryers out of the building. There was like 30 of them, and wasn't telling us. And it just so happened that someone, it's either my office or someone else in his office, saw all the guys pulling out the washing machines in the sales, a $3 million sale on the north side. And the guy was he was mad at the sale price, and he was just trying to steal all the washers and dryers. I don't know. So that's kind of funny. Never seen that happen before.
That's just pure like petty, because what are you going to do with them?
It is petty. It's not really funny. It's just kind of
that's a lot of effort. Like to move a washer and dryer. It's like,
I mean, do you really have that much laundry?
And do you really think you're getting away with it too? Like you're going to have to put those all back, which is going to be even
worse
effort.
You hear the loud like beep, beep, the truck backing up to grab all that stuff out of there. So
yeah, it's a tough
one. Yeah, it's tough.
All right, awesome. All right, anything else?
That's it, man. We appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All
Cheers.
Right.
All right, Stacy, thanks for sitting down with us.
This is a surprise. I'm so happy. Like, I know you're going to be here. Like, so this is great.
I'm so happy to see you in person. This is always like on the phone.
I guess, yeah,
over
we've
Zoom.
never done one in person.
This is awesome.
You've been on twice, but we've never done one in person. So it's great.
in.
And what,
Yeah.
the first one, episode 94, one of the first 100. That's a while back.
Oh, first 100.
There you go. All right, so first off, what's CIC and Kiser? What's the connection there? Like, how often, like, you know, in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are kind of competitors because you guys do, you know, you're brokering deals, you're doing finance, but what's the relationship there?
Yeah, so, you know, they're one of the groups of brokers. We work with them a lot. You know, they come to us with deals. They call us about our programs. I just talked to Lee about our SRO program recently because he wants to know, you know, there's buildings out there. He's talking to clients and he's like, does CIC have something that our clients could use? Like, all right, I'm going to check it out. So it's been over the years. I also know his wife. His wife was part of the Preservation Compact Leadership Committee. Preservation Compact is our policy collaborative. So Estella and I got to know each other. She has 2 boys. I have 3 boys. I love Estella.
All right. Lee's just a byproduct of all this. Just. All right, so do we have a funny story? Can we have a funny story about Lee and Stella? What can you share?
Not really.
No, nothing. That's, you know, you're a decent friend.
I will tell you this. So Estella was very worked up about the city's building code. And when I was on the policy side, we said, okay, we're going to work with the mayor's office and the Department of Buildings, the buildings commissioner, and we're going to say what's wrong with the building code. And so she met me in the lobby at City Hall, and she looked aces, which she does all the time. And so she was like, you know, I said, you look great. She said, I know. My husband said I look great too. He said, where are you going today?
Yeah.
And she said, I'm meeting with the mayor's office.
I like it.
That's awesome. All right, what's new with CIC? I haven't talked to you in a while. I don't know if you guys have talked, but
No.
what's new? What's exciting out there? What should our listeners know about CIC?
So we got a lot of stuff going on. We always do. I mean, our first mortgage product is always great. Always call us, check it out, see what we got. But we have many TIF districts. The city has a program with us. It's called the TIF Purchase Rehab Program. So think about that. It's helping you purchase and rehab your property. So if there are rehab needs that exceed what our first mortgage can support, you can get a grant from this TIF district, and there's 12 or 13. Check out our website. We would love to talk to you about properties in these TIF districts and get you a grant. It's really easy. We just have to know what the property is. You have to talk to us, and we'll figure it out with you.
Okay, so just high levels. What are some of the requirements? Like, it's got to be in a specific location. Give us some of the just high levels here.
Yeah, it has to be in one of our eligible TIF districts, of which I believe there are 12 right now. We're hoping that number increases, but for now we've got 12. There's, you know, several $1 million across the TIF districts. And again, it's a multifamily building. It has rehab. It has to have rehab. And depending on how much of the money, you can only do 50% of your total development costs. So at least there's an affordability requirement, which is very, very generous. So it's a pretty easy program. I know people worry about the city. They worry about the word TIF. This is a very easy program. Talk to our loan officers. They'll tell you where the eligible TIFs are, and they'll tell you about the program.
We can link to that in the show notes as well, too.
That would be great.
Awesome. Hey, last time we had you on, we were talking about the affordable housing, the 8 ASIP.
Yes.
I successfully got the first one through with Drexel. We got our first building. We're doing another one now.
This is great news.
Yeah.
Very good.
The second one's going to hit the 35%, I believe. Yeah. So I actually, from our own podcast, I went back and re-listened to it, and that's how I filled out the application. So
I love hearing that, and I hope all your listeners do the same thing. This is money on the table.
Yeah, we refer it out all the time between the podcast and between all the properties we manage for, all the deals we broker. So we're always sharing that link to the website.
That's outstanding. It's a great program.
We won't go into details. We'll link to that one in the show notes, but that's just a great program to lower the assessed value on your building, which thus should lower your property taxes as well.
Well said.
Awesome.
Yeah, there we go. Wasn't even prepared for that. Wasn't prepared to see you today.
Yeah, that's great.
What a treat.
Yeah. All right. What else? What else would you want our listeners to know about CIC?
Everything. So we're moving forward.
Just everything.
We got this. We got a nice little grant last year, and we really want to support our borrowers with that grant. We want them to be able to plug into CIC no matter where you are in your business journey. You're just starting off. you're at the end of your business journey. We want to be able to help you, not just with your building your portfolio, but plug you into the resources that you need so that you're either taking your business to the next level or you're winding it down and you're doing great on your succession planning. So we're hoping in the next few months, we're going to be able to talk a lot more about that.
All right. We'll have to have you on the show. I know.
Yeah, we'll get you back.
Appreciate it. Great to see you guys in person.
Oh,
Awesome.
thank you. Thank you so
Stacey.
much.
Take care.
Andy, good to see you.
What's up, gents?
We next time I see you, we will be on a golf course. I will be breaking 90. I'm putting it on the podcast right now.
Oh, yes. You just told me you're going to break 90 this year. I mean, whether or not you do that, I still love to golf with you. And look, we'll be out there as soon as it gets to be 40 degrees.
All right, close enough. We're getting there. It's like 40 today.
Yeah.
So
All right, maybe 55.
I was gonna say I don't love golf that much.
That's aggressive. That's aggressive.
All right, so Andy, when did you start at Kiser?
I am coming up on my 7-year anniversary here.
All right, when's the gold? Is 8 year the gold watch? When do you get the?
Wait, what's that?
Is 8 years the gold watch? When do you get the actual?
That's a good question. We may have to institute that, but at least a titanium watch.
All right. So, what has been the biggest difference? Talk to us about that growth, because you've been around for a third of the company's existence. What was it like 7 years ago compared to today?
I was just reminiscing with Lee about this. It was a completely different company. It was probably a quarter of the size. Both brokers and staff. We were in our old Montrose office. That was wonderful, and the company outgrew. But it was a very tight-knit, very small community. And we are now much bigger and in much more professional offices. But it was just a smaller company then, and it's just different now in that it's bigger. And it's more exciting in many ways, maybe a little less. It was so tight knit back then, and just by nature of more people, it's less, but there's so much more going on in the company and so much more that we have done. And we've got some really cool things planned, and the growth that we're experiencing, we kind of had to get this big to get into the next level.
All right. So how have you guys kept that? I still think you guys is relationship based. I don't think of you guys as 𝗵𝘁𝗶𝗵𝗁, right?
Okay.
You guys are not that. It's how have you kept that same sort of
Small company feel while still
the
being
culture?
so big.
The culture's still there, right?
All right, so that culture will always be there in this business, whether it's us or you mentioned 𝗵𝘁𝗶𝗵𝗁, any firm, we're all relationship driven. But that's a part of the business. There is a part of this business that is advertising driven. And the majority of buildings we sell to people that we know. There's a very well-developed ecosystem of multifamily buyers in Chicago, but not all of the buildings fit the mold. And I sold a building, a new construction mixed use, right, by Loyola. Nobody in the mixed use and new construction, most of the relationships don't want. Our advertising got a doctor out of Columbus that's never been in Chicago that liked what he saw and get more yield than Columbus. But what you're kind of going towards, what you kind of alluded to actually is a widely held misconception of we're a local firm and we're only relationships, and we're, therefore if I want national coverage, I need to go to a company that has offices in multiple states. And that is really, really, it's wrong. It's a widely held conception, but there's this thing called the internet, right? And we also can use the internet and have very sophisticated marketing, and our reach is as strong as any of these firms that you want to name that is national, because let's face it, when the local branch of a national firm has a building for sale, they aren't calling every other broker in every other office around the country and saying, hey, go get your client. It's one of a million. And we have graphics in our BOVs where we just create a new one that's a heat map of where do our customers come from. It's all over the country. It's all over the world. I closed my first deal I ever did to a guy out of South Africa, and my third deal to a guy out of Israel. So the idea that, yes, relationships are incredibly important to us, but we are able to reach around the globe as good as anybody else.
Give us a story about Lee. Give us a story or a quirk or something about Lee that nobody knows.
So I just complimented Lee on something. So the first thing is, once upon a time long ago, Lee told me that people always think that he's Jewish. And I said, like, really? Like, you don't look Jewish, and Kiser maybe, but so, that's kind of an ongoing thing. And then, we're having our company party here, and I was talking with Lee and a lawyer friend of mine that I've done a lot of business with, and Lee used the word 𝗕𝗃𝗃. And just, in the middle of conversation, and it's just the word 𝗕𝗃𝗃 came out. That's a Yiddish word for trouble and for pain in the ass. And I looked at him and I go, Lee, you have like full command, but he has full command of Yiddish slang, and he'll use other words. And like, it's very impressive for a Gentile. He seamlessly uses Yiddish words. I respect that.
I'm gonna start picking up some Yiddish. Just throw it out there.
I mean, look, I can teach you. It'll cost you, but whatever.
All right, give us either your most memorable, like, favorite deal you've done here, or like the one that was the biggest pain in the ass that you're like, oh my God, this took 5 years off my life. Or it might be the same. The answer might be the same.
It's not the same one. It's not the same one. The most difficult I want to kill myself deal.
New category.
I'm not going to do that because
I want to kill yourself deal.
People are going to figure it out. But like, my favorite deal was by far Granville Towers last year, because it was big. It was a 154 unit condo deconversion right by Loyola. And yes, it was big unit count, big dollar amount and all that. But what was awesome about it was everybody involved in the deal was just top of their game. The board was amazing. They were fully committed. The board, in a very rare move by a condominium board, gave their attorney carte blanche and didn't penny pinch the attorney, and hired the best attorney and said, whatever you need to do. We referred in the buyer attorney. He was amazing. The buyer, 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗵𝗀, was incredible and took tons of punches and did it. Everybody involved in the deal was incredible. There was, of course, some, shall we say, rambunctious unit owners, but we're so used to that it kind of gets to be more of a chuckle than a stress. But it was just like, it was run perfectly. And we did that 154 unit deconversion in a little over 7 months from like listing agreement to close.
We broke down that deal on an episode with Sal, didn't we?
We had 𝗵𝗶𝗃 on. I don't have my notes pulled up.
Oh, yeah.
We broke that one down.
But he said, like, that was when rates were climbing. So during those 7 months, Sal took it like a champ. Just rates went from 4 to 7 or whatever.
From LOI to rate lock, 150 basis point jump.
On a
150
deal, right?
And what was perfect about this deal was when we picked buyers, we had another offer $1 million higher, but it had 60 days of DD and 60 days of financing. We were all very worried about rates. Sal came in because of our incredible negotiating skills, and Sal put a lot of money down hard from day one, only subject to vote. And yeah, that was when we made the board made the right decision and left some money on the table, because had we gone with the contingent one, no way in hell it was closing. Rates literally went up 150 basis points. And Sal never once, as they went up the whole time, never once did he cry to me about it. He was incredible. He was great.
So that's awesome. We got a link to that one in the shows. That was a great story on that one. All right, what's next? You've been here 7 years. Kiser's growing like crazy. What, give us that either 5-year plan, or what do you see happening for both you and Kiser?
All right. There's some fun stuff coming next, but I can't tell you yet.
All right.
Cliffhanger.
I'm sorry. I mean, look, when I can tell you, I'll be promoting the you-know-what out of it, right? But we've got some cool stuff going as a company growth. We've got some new business lines that we're going to be pulling out that are going to be really cool. I can't tell you yet.
All right.
We'll leave everyone on a cliffhanger here. Andy, thank you so much.
Yeah. You guys are the best.
Man, thank you, man.
All right, Corey.
Yes.
I know you've been ditching us. We found you, baby.
I know.
Could not
I was
hiding.
hiding.
Miscommunication, but we will have you on the show again.
Yeah, definitely. I got my link. I'm picking my time. We're doing it. We're going to get it done in February.
This guy spoke for the Lincoln Builders Group, though, the one Christmas party or whatever. You got too big for us.
That's what, big head. That's how it goes.
Actually, what I remember most about that is right before you're going up, we did the Super Troopers. I was like, I bet you can't say meow 5 times up there. Sorry, meow on the south side.
We did. It was a fun time, and now you got to call my people and get on my schedule.
All right, so we're here at the Kiser event. You bought, it was a 60-unit building from Aaron?
Yeah, so Aaron and Noah had a 60-unit building on in between 78th and 79th and South Shore Drive.
Okay.
And it was a pretty heavy renovation project. So we were able to get in on a good price.
What year?
This was back in 2019, so pre-COVID. It's the last building that we've bought at this point. But we were actually in second position. So Aaron called me up and was like, hey, we're under contract. I'm not sure if this thing is going to close. I know you've walked it a few times. Are you guys going to get in? And so we were like, yeah, let me call some people. Let me figure out. And so I reached out to the lender who was on it, and they're like, yeah, his construction numbers make no sense. This thing is dead in the water. The sellers aren't going to give us another extension. So, let's put something together. And that's what we did. So we went in there, and I ran construction numbers, and we were able to close, and we started construction in June of 2020. And then due to COVID, construction ran 6 months over timeline, and
prices just going.
Prices, that part was terrible, but because we were able to kind of get in at a really good number, we were able to kind of absorb some of that. And we got out of construction in, I think, August of 21. And yeah, we've been stabilized ever since.
Yeah, I have a few projects that follow that same timeline, and yeah, you went way over construction budget.
Yep.
But at the same point, you got bailed out, quote unquote, because rents went super high. So you got the valuation on the NOI. But then also when you went to stabilize, you underwrote a 6% interest rate, and it was 4. Yeah, it's the opposite of what's happening today. You got that benefit.
Yeah, we locked in at a 4%. And also, I ran my rents on the perform at like $800 a month. And so now, like, we're getting market rate $1,100. Some of our subsidies are at $1,300. So there's a lot of that. Now you got to kind of deal with some of the not fun stuff that kind of goes with being in a heavier subsidy building. But, but yeah, it's been good. Now we have the quantum computer facility that's going to be a block and a half away. Advocates talking about building a hospital a block away. Leon Walker's doing the Thrive Exchange, which is a $40 million development about 3 blocks away. We see a lot of positive that, if we ride the wave for another 3 or 4 years, the exit is going to be probably filthy.
Yeah. How did you get that at bat? Right? Why did Aaron come to you? Did you buy something from them before? Had you guys met before?
Yeah, so I've been dealing with Kiser forever. There's only a handful of brokers in Chicago that are doing legitimate amount of work on the South Side. So you see them all the time. And so I'd put in offers on deals of theirs several times and lose out to, at that time, Pangea or WPD or, so we have been fighting the good fight for a long time.
Still standing.
Trying to buy stuff from them, but getting beat out by other people. And, we were still pretty little and trying to figure a lot of this stuff out. And so this one just kind of ended up working. I had found the building on CoStar on LoopNet, and I was just like, this is it, right? Like, this is our next elevation and because at that time we had never done anything that big.
For reference, what was the biggest you had done?
20.
So this is 60 and a rehab, not a stabilized
Well,
building.
we don't ever buy generally stabilized. So everything that we do is near gut or gut rehab to some degree. And so, our project that we had gotten before that was a 20 unit in Auburn Gresham. The one before that was like a 12. We had a couple, we had an 18 and a 17 over in North Lawndale. So, that was kind of our sweet spot, was like that 20-ish unit world, but I saw this one, I was like, and it's me and my dad who work together. And so I'm like, we got to take a shot at this. Like, these buildings just don't come around. And I'm like, $1.9 million. Like this is a good deal, and this kind of is too good to be true. And I just kept on just kind of chomping at the bit. I was working with actually a different broker who's no longer with Kiser at the time. And so we were just like, and so they had talked to him and was like, bring him back. Let's talk to him. So we met at the building. It was me and Aaron, and I think Noah and Marco, who was my broker at the time from Kiser. And they're like, let's figure this out, and let's just slide something in as a backup, so that we can just tell the sellers like, hey, there's other options. You don't need to, put another extension out there. Guy had already had like 4 extensions, and they're like, so once we did that, they backed out of their deal. We slid right in, and, it really was pretty easy. Noah and Aaron and, they did a good job of getting everything structured, and there was a little bit of back and forth on the pricing, but, we kind of knew what we were getting into. The elevators was new. Most everything that we had at that time was a 3-story walk up, so the elevators was kind of like a new thing. And, we get into construction, and the masonry was a little bit worse than I anticipated. My electrician.
It's never better.
I know, right? Right? You don't walk in and be like, oh, wait, that lintel is actually fantastic. You know what I'm saying? So we ended up having to rebuild the whole parapet wall around the 5th floor. My electrician died, so my sweetheart deal that I was getting from my electrician went away because he was retiring. So he really just gave me a cost deal to do the work, and it was just gonna be him and 2 of his guys. And once he died, they both went and took other jobs somewhere else. So like, here I am, I'm closed. Everything is already financed, and I got to find a new electrician, So that was awesome. But, once we got everything, the Mayor Lightfoot came out and did the big old thing with CIC in our parking lot. There was a lot of things that, were really celebrated once we got done. So it's been, a really great building for us.
That's awesome. What's one piece of advice you would tell someone? They only own that 3 unit. They're looking to make that jump like you made. They're looking to get a multi. They say, great, I'd love to work with Kiser, but why would they talk to me? Like, what advice would you give that person who's looking to scale there?
Anybody looking to scale, it's what we always talk about, right? You got to be honest about your numbers, right? Don't lie to yourself about what your numbers are going to be in order to force a deal to work. Either your deal works for you or it doesn't. Don't finagle. I typically run 3 pro formas for every deal based on a vacancy and collection, good, better, best, or bad, worst, however you want to look at it, so that I can see, okay, if worst case was to happen, can I survive? What do I need as my reserves? Those kind of things. And the great thing is, like, with Kiser Group, they have a wealth of experience, So anybody who's working with Kiser Group, lean on your broker, ask them questions, understand the difference between broker number and real number, and then put your deal together and then let them guide you into getting you to the closing table. Don't feel like you got to do everything yourself. That is what you're paying them. If you're going to give them 5 or 6%, make them work for it. You know what I'm saying? So, but all of them are great people. I was with them looking at 70th in Indiana yesterday or the day before. Aaron shows up with 5 guys, that he's trying to teach the business. And we're walking through this building looking at it to see what is it worth. And me and Aaron have conversations. I tell him what I think it's worth. And he's like, no, it's worth this. And, and so, but the more and the better you kind of understand your market, they're trying to make sure you get into a good deal, and so they're not going to put you out.
Coming back, baby.
They want you coming back, right? Because we all typically represent 3 or 4 deals, 5 or 6 deals, 10 deals in our lifetime, so they want those, and then I know you and you know him, and so they want our network, and they know if they do not a good job, things, there's no referrals, there's no additional anything. And they have a vast network, so I find that, like, oftentimes I'm like, man, I need somebody to do this. Let me hit up Aaron or whatever or Noah and see, do they got a guy, And so that's kind of how I become the I got a guy, because people call me and say, hey, do you have this? And it's like, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I know somebody I know. And then if I don't, then it's like, let me make a call, you know? So, I mean,
1 degree of separation.
absolutely. At all times, right? You know, so that's why. And, you know, and then you get to come to Kiser and you can dive into their entire network, you know, and everybody's so personable. Like, I mean, you know, you'll come and see Lee and, you know, hey, and you meet him once and he remembers you forever. And, you know, and so it's like, that's the thing is like, I think we've had Kiser Group on Kiser Group has also represented on my clients' deals and stuff like that. But it's like every time I see him, it's like, hey, you know, so I mean, it's a really nice, you get that small kind of broker feel in that kind of bigger brokerage house.
All right, good stuff. So Corey, thanks for giving our listeners a little taste here.
Yeah, definitely.
You gonna come back?
We got it set for February. I'm just going to pick the date. But we're good. I will
this
be
is
there.
gonna record. You got to do it.
We appreciate it.
All right. We have the celebrities here.
The main event? This is the
I
main
know.
event?
I'm a little nervous.
I know.
All right. So we're going to talk about the origin of Kiser Group. Before that, though, we're going to throw another curveball at you. Lee said you would know the origin of 6FM. So we got to hear about the band first. So as a drummer here, found out when Lee played guitar.
All right,
Selfishly
so-
dictating this conversation.
All right, so Lee is in a band, has been in a band actually almost really since we met a very, 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 very long time ago. But he was in a band with some people and they could not figure out the name. And this went on for way too long. They were just throwing names out there. And basically, I got kind of sick of it. And so I said, just call yourselves 6 effing musicians. And so I think
there we
we
go.
had good judgment and thought, well, we really can't do that. But how about 6FM? And that is the origin of 6FM.
That is awesome. So that's the second best band name story I've heard. The first one is someone wanted to name it Free Beer back in the day when you had marquees. Just free beer on the marquee every time.
Come to the free beer show. I love it.
Absolutely. All right, the origins of Kiser Group, right? Let's hear about this. You know, it's been 20 years. Talk about, hey, I'm going to start a brokerage. Like that sounds a little daunting, but those early days, like, can you give us a glimpse of those conversations you guys were having?
So I'm trying to figure out how truthful to be. So we came to
We're here for entertainment. Do what you want, Lee.
we came to
Go
Chicago
ahead.
in '93 because she knocked it out of the park at UNC Law School and got a job from Jenner and Block in Chicago. She's not from North Carolina. I am. I wanted to get out and say, oh, Chicago, absolutely, let's go. Fell in love with the city. 3 years later, yeah, I need a helper. 3 years later, it's time for Lee to get a job because I was trying all kinds of things. Couldn't find one, and I stumbled into an ad in the Chicago Tribune that said commercial real estate broker. Had no idea what that meant. But let me go apply. Long story short, it was just like the stars lining up. I found something that I could start. It was my own business, but it had a platform. 3 years later, she's working late at the law firm every night, all weekend. I'm making more money than she is, and I'm at home with our 1-year-old, and I keep saying, Stella, you should come look at this. You should come look at this. She left a law career and became a broker at that company. When she started, our assistants were answering the phone. Do you want to talk to Lee Kiser or do you want to talk to Stella? Wait, there's 2 of them? Well, are they married? Stella was like, oh my God, just start calling it Kiser Group. That's the origin story. 5 years later, we decided we could do this better our way. So we left in 2005, opened up our own business, and we've grown it ever since.
That's awesome.
Those early days, can you share, if you don't mind being humble for a second, share some of those, like, I don't want to say struggles. There had to be moments where it's like, man, is this the right track, right? Everyone's gone through that. Do you mind sharing just, if you can think of like either a very memorable one or because right now everyone looks at you as Lee Kiser on top of the world, right?
Yeah, we've got a couple. I think one's a little bit more funny and one's a little bit more serious.
Start funny.
I'll start with funny. So the funny one was, well, we left this large company. We started our own business, but we didn't have a space yet because we were building our space out. And I don't really remember what happened, but there was some building code issue that we had to.
He lost his building permit, so we
yeah.
had to go self-certify and start over.
Okay, so that really delayed us. So we had to find a space. So one of our clients said, hey, why don't you come and open up your office in the basement office of my apartment building? And I think it was Uptown. Weren't we in Uptown?
Yeah, Uptown, and it was 2 small rooms.
It's
Two
the Michael
small
Scott
rooms.
Paper
Studio
Company.
apartment in the basement.
Yeah, so there were 4 of us, and basically it was really kind of one big room
Yeah.
and a bathroom. And so, as you can imagine, anytime anybody needed to use the facilities, we all
Especially 3 of the 4 of us being large males.
we all felt like we were there with them. So that's the funny story.
I'll tell the hard one.
The harder one. Okay, I'll let you tell the harder one.
I mean, look, we started in 2005, and we just went massive trajectory. Stella had everything set for us. You know, the legal mind, the business mind goes to work. I'm the sales mind. We do both everything together, but we each have our lanes too. And we just thought, oh my God, we're killing it. 2005, 2006, 2007, and then, right? And, you know, we went through basically 3 years where there were no transactions. And so we reached a point where we had to decide, do we close up or do we double down? And we made the hard decision to double down. We ended up putting all of our savings, everything that we had to keep the business going. So we got out the other end at about 2011, 2012, and rebuilt it. So, you know, we figured out there were no transactions. So Stella came up with all these systems and things for us to learn how to sell notes. Realized we didn't need a Series E. We didn't need extra licensing. We could do this. And so we sold over 300 notes. Lenders became our biggest clients. They were all secured by multifamily buildings, but we made it out the other side.
Yeah, so basically it was really, really tough time, and we had to really pivot and change the business kind of considerably. We were just trying to figure out how we keep the lights on, how we keep the people, but we didn't lay anybody off. We never missed a payroll. Actually, never even missed a raise. So, it was a few. Except for us. we missed our own payroll a few times, but we're happy we did it because it was really everything to us. It was really important, and the people that were with us felt like family. We felt very responsible for them. It was a tough time for anybody. Where else would they be able to go to work? Things were shutting down left and right. So we kept everybody together and we kept going. And I think it was, as we see where we are now, I think it was well worth it.
Well, you probably don't know this, but in 2011-12, it was 11 or 12, I bought a 6 flat on the south side. You guys represented the seller, and it was for $75,000 for a 6 flat. So I remember the broker walked away with like $9,000 or whatever. Like,
I will tell you, there was one note that we sold for $1, and our commission was 3 cents. We actually got a check for 3
Frame
cents.
that bad boy.
that's awesome.
So, let me ask you this: Who's still with you? Who's been here the longest besides you two? Who's the longest tenured Kiser employee?
Noah Burke.
So when did Noah start?
Noah started.
Oh, I'm gonna quiz.
Oh, don't do this to me.
That's our Chicago fact right there.
2012.
So he was right there.
He
at
was
that
right
time.
at the tail end of all that, and starting back. Yeah.
Noah's
It's Noah.
not that old. Was that like out of college?
Yeah.
Well, he was 13 when we hired him.
Had to keep costs down during the hard times. Nice work. All right, so coming out of there selling notes, you come out on the other side. You guys have done a great job of still being, what I would call the relationship based. And I know you probably don't want to think that. You guys go have national buyers, and I don't want to take that away from you, but you've kept that culture of, like, I know Kiser people, right? Like, it's a different culture. How have you guys kept that from 2011, 12 coming out the other end to today? Because you guys are, 5 times the size as you were then? Like, you're substantially larger.
Yeah, I mean, we really started with a few neighborhoods in Chicago, and we prided ourselves in being the best in Chicago. Then that really brought into Chicagoland, and now we are regional and even national. How do we keep, really what you're saying is, how do we keep the culture? How do we keep the relationships with our clients? I'm not really exactly sure. I think I would say, in terms of our own brokers, we have a no asshole policy. Can I say that on here?
Yeah.
And we're,
Actually, that was the one thing we definitely shook on. We said, no assholes.
we did. We did. I mean, it sounds funny, but we actually did because, it's an aggressive business and it attracts a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people who, are not people who want to work in a typical corporation. Sometimes you get kind of the wild, wild west out in Chicago real estate. So that was really important to us on who we hired, who we brought in, how we trained them, really fostering a collaborative environment, teamwork. And one of the most important mantras for us is you work for the relationship, not for the deal. We never really wanted anybody to be desperate working just for the deal because we think that's bad business. And this is a relationship business, and that's why people come back. And that's why we have extremely long-term relationships with many of our clients.
I want to chime in too, and spot on. I think though to make it even simpler, or to make it, I think of things very simply, and it's really, I mean, our brokers know, and this goes back to it's about the relationship, not the deal. As long as you can put the client first, always, right? Then that's the kind of people that we want on board. We always also, though, look at our own company that way. And to our company and all of our staff, our brokers are first always.
This does not sound simpler.
It is simpler. It's the company. Nothing drives us crazier than one of our brokers to say we work for Kiser Group or to introduce Stella or me as their boss. No, they're in business for themselves. They're out there trying every day to do it. Our staff all knows we exist to work for them. And when that's at the heart of your culture, it bleeds through to the clients because they see how we are with them. They learn how to be with their clients, and you put somebody else's needs first, and that's what I think perpetuates the culture, the relationships, and we are growing. We got regional, we got national. It's the same thing, whether you're in Chicago or whether you're in LA or whether you're in Denver. It's still a person, and their needs are why you exist, and you have to figure out what they need and serve them before yourself. And then that's the culture.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
That wasn't simpler, was it?
And it was much longer.
Yeah.
So, all right, bringing it back to Chicago for a little bit. Give us the honest, not the broker hat, but like the objective opinion. The city now, the next 5 years, the projection. Why are you still bullish on Chicago? Why are you still growing your company here?
Well,
I just always need reassurance from everyone smarter than me.
Okay, so
double down
we
here,
are
baby.
bullish on Chicago. This is home base. Commercial, we're in 6 states right now, so we still have our dominant market share in mid-market in Chicago multifamily, but we're now Greater Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan. We just opened an office 3 weeks ago in Minnesota with a 10-year Cushman veteran. I'm traveling next week recruiting in another area. So we're now looking at things more regionally. Back to your question, though, because it is straight up Chicago investor. 𝗬𝘃𝗲𝗵𝗁, who is here, just left NMHC, which just concluded in Vegas today. He said, you wouldn't believe everybody, Chicago institutional capital, that box ain't been checked for a long time. It's checked right now. Why? Supply. Now, we all wish it were easier to develop in Chicago. Without supply, rents keep growing really. However, when you look at returns, when you look at projected rent growth, Chicago's back on the map. It has not been for years. Jeff said every panel he attended, they were talking about Chicago. And so, where are we in the cycle? Look, we've been in this business now 20 years. It's our anniversary.
Look at that 20 sign behind you.
But add almost a decade to that when I started, all right? Chicago cap rates are stable. They have 50 basis point swings up or down. but they're stable. Compare that to any other this is the third largest metropolitan area in the country. All right, go try to look at cap rates in New York or LA or any other city in the top 10. They're all over the place. Go to some of these places right now and look at what's happening to rents. They're way down. Minneapolis, we just opened, and great broker services needed because the market is in free fall in some places because of all the George Floyd combined with COVID. You have whole sections of the city, there's mass exodus, and they still aren't back with occupancy, and rents are half what they were. Brokerage services are needed there desperately, but you don't see that in Chicago. You're seeing deals trade there at 70% on what they traded for 4 years ago. You don't see that in Chicago. You won't see it in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's Chicago is steady Eddie.
That's definitely a passionate answer. I love it. So you're definitely in growth mode right now. For those that are listening out there, why you're going to have to grow the team, whether it be here or Minneapolis. What makes Kiser such an attractive place to come and work to in the next 5-10 years? This is where you get to pitch your future team.
Let's find your next Noah Burke.
Yeah.
I'm going to hand this over to Lee in a second. But what I would say, you're talking about why should people come and work
Yeah.
at Kiser Group. I think a few things. First of all, you're not going to get any better support or training. I don't really care what anybody says that they have. We actually put our money where our mouth is. We've done it over and over and over again. And you're not going to get those kinds of, you're not going to get that anywhere else.
And now what?
Well, plus, I mean, I guess I could say this. The people here are awesome. I mean, we have a lot of fun. Everybody likes each other. We have fun after hours, during hours. I mean, just, you guys can look around here. Obviously, the guys listening can't. But just look around here. Everybody's fun, enjoys each other. A lot of people are friends here. And that makes a big difference. People work together. People collaborate together. And I don't think you see that everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've put a lot of money into this place to make it really attractive for people who want to build a business. So we have a full staff. Look around. General counsel, also CEO position, COO. We have compliance. We have director of operations. We have full-time marketing. We have full-time content, and we have full-time sales management. This is all just to support our people. So a huge staff, and it's there to work for our brokers.
And we listen to our people, which I think is really paramount. Being involved in the business, having the owners involved in the business day to day makes us listen. We know what's going on. We can pivot. It's not some owner sitting somewhere far, far away that has no idea. It's not a bunch of investors that are separated from the business. This is what we do too.
Our broker, and we do listen to our people. We had issues with technology. We had issues with workflow. Great. We dumped 6 figures plus into building a proprietary CRM on Salesforce that we own, so we control the APIs, so that we can tie in the periphery software. So packages can be auto-generated. Underwriting can be flow through better. You got to invest in it when your brokers tell you what they need to be better. So you threw what should have been a softball, and we can't squeeze it in the little time that we have. I think it boils down to this company exists to work for our brokers. Our brokers work for the clients.
What I hear is anyone that comes here has the maximum opportunity to grow themselves and ultimately make the most money out of what they're
Yeah,
doing.
we should have just let you answer the question because that was a much better answer.
All right.
There you go. All right. What's the one piece of advice you would tell someone they just bought their first 3-unit, right? The person just getting off the ground. They're house hacking. They're living in a 3-unit. They know one day they want to own, 50, 100, whatever X amount of units. What's that one piece of advice you would tell them to just keep moving forward and keep growing?
Stretch. Early on. If you got nothing to lose, you got nothing to lose. Stretch. So take your savings, buy that 2 flat, that 3 flat, rent out the other units until you can get back to leverage, get back to flush. Probably save a little money. Do it again.
And with those smaller buildings, work it yourself.
Yeah, do as much as you can yourself. Cut down your costs as much as possible. And when you get the opportunity, one of the very early things Stella did as a broker was she found a client who had a bunch of 2 flats, 3 flats, 6 flats, right? And she said, this guy is on his way, right? His first big building, 40 units. She sold him in Uptown and became that's Andy 𝗬𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁, right? And you know Andy. And look at him now. So do exactly what, just get in early, leverage as much as you can, and then become conservative in those purchases and find a really good broker to guide you.
All right, last question here and we'll wrap. What's the Kiser Group legacy, right? When you guys are done with this and, I don't know what the game plan is, or what do you see people talking about Kiser Group 20 years from now, 40 years from now? What do you want them to be saying?
Well, I will first say that I don't know when we'll be done with it, because my mother's 88 years old and she is teaching at a university in New Jersey, PhD classes. So I'm not really sure when we're going to slow down, but I'm going to leave it up to Lee to say what he thinks our legacy should be.
I've never. Am I that old? You're asking me about legacy?
No.
Can I say what I really want to say on this broadcast?
He did say 20 to 40 years.
Okay. In 20 years, I'll be here to answer that question.
All right. 40-year party. Hopefully we're invited back after asking that the wrong way.
Look, I don't want to think about legacy. To me, this is not Kiser Group 20. It's Kiser Group 2.0. And it feels like an inflection point. I'm as excited as I've ever been about this business. I think reputation is what I would be more interested in answering than legacy. Was the client always first? Did you exhibit tenacity, integrity, and savvy in everything that you did, which are our core values? And if you missed it, there are huge letters in the foyer on your way out.
Tenacity's a great one.
I love that.
One. Yeah, that's a
and
great
it's just
one.
that's our core values. Did we exhibit those? Is that our reputation? We will have been successful.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Stella, Lee. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate the relationship we have with you guys, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys.
We're so happy that we met you early on and continue to work with you.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much.